Hello and welcome to Roli Pulse, a new digital initiative by Roli Books. I am Chirag Thakkar, commissioning editor at Roli Books, and I'm very delighted to welcome you all for this very special discussion between Kiran Nadar and Roshini Vadhera on 10 of Kiran's favorite art pieces. Kiran, as many of you know, is a collector and patron of the arts. She has profoundly shaped and inspired the Indian art world, becoming a pivotal force in the country's cultural landscape with an influence and vision that has increased the visibility of Indian modern and contemporary art worldwide. Uh, Through her vision, consistent efforts, and unfailing enthusiasm, Kiran has given India a global platform that showcases and promotes Indian art through her institution, the Kiran Nadar Museum of Art, KNMA, in New Delhi. Engaging Kiran in this very exciting conversation is going to be Roshini Vadhera, who is director at the Vadhera Art Gallery. Roshni also successfully facilitated the opening of Vadhera's second gallery space in 2005, which has held important exhibitions of contemporary artists such as Atul Dodia, Anju Dodia, Shilpa Gupta, Nalini Malani, Sudhir Patwardhan, etc. Uh, Roshni has also set up the foundation for the India Contemporary Art, a non-profit organization that aims to broaden the audience for contemporary Indian art and establish a dialogue between the arts and the public through education and active participation in public art. She's also been a patron to several international museums. So welcome, Kiran. Welcome, Roshni. I do hope you enjoy this conversation.
Thank you, Roli Books, for this opportunity, and welcome, Mrs. Nadar. So let's start. Mrs. Nadar, you can start by talking about how you got interested in collecting art.
Okay, I always had an interest in art, but in 1989-90, we were in the process of doing up our home. And that was the time that I decided that I would do up my house and started looking at the artists who I felt would be appropriate. So when you see the works that I have chosen, actually some of the works are from that period. So I bought 3 major works, which you will see, and soon got interested in art, but with no thought of setting up a museum or anything. It was just, I started collecting, and then I had no wall space, and I started putting things in my husband's office. And so that was done, and I was still looking at art. And then I decided, India needed to have a private museum. They needed the private sector also to do something for art, because it's just not enough for the government with the government museum. So it was an idea, and I spoke to a couple of people, including your father, actually.
Yes.
And they were very enthusiastic. They gave me a lot of support. And but if I had known how much it's going to take, maybe I wouldn't have got it.
No, we are all very thankful for this happening. Mr. Nadar, how many works do you have in your collection?
I don't have the exact count, but they're in about between 6,500 and 7,000.
And out of 7,000 works, we've asked you to select 10 works.
Yeah, because a lot of the works are very small works, and 6,500 really is the complete lot of works that we have.
When someone asks you to select your favorite works, how do you go about select? I mean, I know we spoke briefly earlier, and it happened very quickly for you. But how do you go? How do you think about your favorite works?
Well, I think it started with me by starting with works that I live with.
Yes.
That I've still retained, even though my collection has grown. Those special works have stayed with me, and I haven't got bored of them. I still look at them. I still have a feeling of their belonging, and so they automatically came to my mind. Of course, I have had to leave some very important works out because the number was 10 and I still overshot to about 13.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, it was works I've lived with. And then as I've acquired works, the important works that have played a pivotal role in the museum were also works that I considered.
So let's actually go back to the works that you live with. And one of my favorite stories that I've heard from you several times that I never get bored of is the one about how you brought the Rameshwar Bhuta home, your first Bhuta. So do you want to share that?
Okay, so, you know, if you look at the Rameshwar Bhuta, maybe you'll see the image. It's a very dramatic, but a very, it's a difficult work to live with. It's not, you know, it's a male nude. And, but when I saw the work, I went to Rameshwar's studio and I saw the work, I was completely bowled over. So I told him, I will take it. And he gave me a photograph. There was no concept of an image as such on TV. I got a photograph and I brought it home and I showed it to my husband. And he was horrified. And he said to me, "Are you crazy? My mother lives with me on and off. Roshni is very small. You want to put up a painting of a male nude in the house for everyone to see?" So I said, okay, but I have committed. So we'll have to go and meet him and then I'll have to explain to him why I'm not going to buy it. So we both drove to Rameshwar's studio and we went up and he took out the painting and Shiv saw it. And he said, you know, you're right. We have to have this painting. So that's how I got that painting.
That's amazing. And, you know, I mean, obviously, Mr. Nadar has been a huge support through, you know, through your collecting and the museum. And, you know, you've also had, you know, a lot of interest in historically significant works. And, you know, one of the works that you've selected is the beautiful Raja Ravi Varma, which I've been seeing in your home for so many years. So, and you know, Raja Ravi Varma is of course so important when one talks about Indian modern art. You know, he influenced so many of our artists. So, do you want to talk about that work?
So, I've always been taken up by Ravi Varma because I think the way he is able to portray, especially the woman figure, I think, and the jewelry and the textile, and I mean, it's just fantastic. So there was a company called Bowrings, which had an auction where they got all these Ravi Varma works from some collector in Bombay. And so when I saw this particular work, Shakuntala Patrilekhan, it was a work that I was really drawn to. Actually, there was another work, Yashoda Krishna, and I couldn't decide which one I wanted. But then I decided I was going to get this one. And it is a very poignant work. It shows Shakuntala in the forest writing this letter. And the way she is depicted and the way the foliage around her is depicted is very moving. And then I also bought two other works at the same time. These are Saraswati and Lakshmi. These were works which are in my husband's office. They are works that he had prayed to in calendar images in his childhood. So when he saw the catalog, he said, you must get these two works because I've lived with them in my childhood, but as a calendar image. So that was...
And this was in the early 90s?
This was around, I think it was around 95, 96. I don't remember quite when the Bowrings auction took place.
And in your early years of collecting, I think some of the works that are in your home right now were also sort of based on friendships, relationships you actually built with the artists themselves, and you were able to commission works with them directly, right? And the two works that I'm referring to here are the Hussain and the Manjeet in your home. So tell us the story about the Manjeet work and then the Hussain.
The Manjeet work has a very interesting story. I went to a studio at Garhi, and I saw what he was doing, and then there used to be a magazine called the Illustrated Weekly, and he had done these black and white um, drawings about the homeless in Bombay and various sort of other subjects. But they were beautiful drawings. So when I saw him, we started talking, and then he said, "Why don't you come over to my friend's house? We'll spend a few hours together." So I went with him to a friend of his house who was a singer. And so there he played the tabla and she sang. And we spent this really nice evening together and got to know each other, which was really a wonderful thing to happen, because I retained my relationship with Manjeet as a friend for many years. I mean, all till he passed away. And then I told him that I wanted to work a painting based on this drawings you've done for the Illustrated Weekly. And that's how this painting came about.
And it's gorgeous. It's probably one of the most beautiful Manjeets I've ever seen.
I think so too. I think it's really a very, very strong Manjeet.
Yeah. And what about the Hussain?
So the Hussain, again, at that time when I was looking for artists for the house, I felt one artist who I must have is a Hussain, because Hussain was the artist at that time.
Yeah.
So again, I met him through Rashta, and he came and saw the house. The house was, it was in an unfinished state, just the walls were up and there was nothing else, but spaces were defined. And I showed him where I'd like to put the painting. And he said, fine. And then he came back about 10, 15 days later, and he brought two paintings. And we saw them both. And then we decided we'd take both of them. So we bought, one was the Mahabharata, and the other was Mother's. Today, even though I might say that they are not, the Mahabharata is that, I mean, I've seen many more Hussain works which are more dramatic, better painted. But this painting has a special place for me because he painted it for the house. And then he would drop in occasionally and get onto a stool and repaint parts of the painting. He would say that I think the outline color is too white. I think I need to make it more cream.
And was that scary for you? Were you like, oh my God, what is he doing to my painting?
Not at all. It was so touching that he could do this, that somebody as great as him could come in and suddenly, do something that is different from any other artist who's ever done it. So,
and most artists wouldn't have the sort of guts to do something like that, right? Especially live with no sort of preparation. Only
yeah,
like that.
But he was special.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
so you have the Mahabharata by Hussain, and then you have, what we informally call the Ramayana by Arpita Singh, which was a more sort of recent commission with her. So, and that's also been hanging in your home recently. So, would you like to talk about that?
Okay, so the Arpita Singh painting came about, the commission came about after there was an auction of her work at Saffron Art. It was a work which was a large work of hers, which was like, I think, 20 feet was the height. It was very big. And it was a beautiful work, but it was impractical even for me. I had no space where I would put it. And I did bid on it. It was at Saffron. I did bid on it, but I didn't get it. I lost the bid. And I was very disappointed. So I said that I'm going to commission a really important work of Arpita's, and I'm going to leave this subject. I told her that I like the subject of the Ramayana.
Also because you had a Mahabharat by
Because I had a Mahabharat by Hussain. And also, I have a Mahabharat of
Arpita.
Arpita's also.
Yes.
I thought that I should, ask her to give me a sister to that work. And I mean, that it's really a magnificent work. What she's done.
And I think it's, I think she would find it hard to produce a work like that now. It's probably the last most important painting that she's produced.
Yeah, in our complete collection of art, that's the largest canvas, and it's really dramatic, and it's got all her nuances and all her whatever she did best.
And I think it was first shown in publicly in the retrospective that you had at the museum. So two of these artists who we've already spoken about, both Ruta and Arpita, saying you've done retrospectives at the museum, which of course is not only an honor for the artists, but also for the public in India, for people to have the opportunity to see entire bodies of work by these artists, which wouldn't otherwise be possible in India, right? So, I mean,
yeah.
And you selected these artists in depth, you've got multiple works.
Yes.
And another artist like that who you have mentioned in your list is Mrinalini Mukherjee, an artist who got a lot of her critical acclaim actually after she passed away, unfortunately. But you have been supporting her from the beginning. You've got a pretty significant body of work, and there's an interesting story with her as well.
I bought Mrinalini when nobody used to buy her.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, she used to be in Garhi, and I would visit her studio, and I loved the hemp works that she did. And she worked so hard. Her fingers used to be sort of in a bad state when she was doing it, but she really loved her work. And so I acquired quite a few works of hers at that stage. I wish I had bought more. But at that stage, I did buy a significant number of works. And one work that I bought was the Raja. It is probably the largest work that she'd ever done. But unfortunately, my husband didn't like that work. He just felt, what is this jute thing you put up in the house? And please take it away. And I loved the work, but I didn't know what to do. So I went to the NGMA, and I asked them if I could donate the work to them. But they were not interested. So then I said, okay, I'll put the work into Shiv's office. They weren't interested. It was just put into storage. And then when the thought of the museum came up, this work came up in my mind, saying that, this is an important work for me. I did not, Mrinalini wasn't such a known figure, but I am going to definitely keep it for the museum.
Amazing. And also, I think, when you're talking about these large installations, which tend to be kind of, not practical for residential homes, right? So a lot of these contemporary artists who supported and been able to acquire, very ambitious projects. There are three artists in your list, so both Gupta, Bharti Kher, and Ranjini Shettar. So both Gupta's Line of Control that was in public display at the mall for so many years, and I first saw it at the Tate Biennale. And you're probably the only collector in India who had the ability to actually bring such an important work back to India, and which I'm sure he's indebted to you hugely for that. So tell us about that work.
So that work I had seen at the Tate also, and then I was approached by a gallery that said that work was available, and would I be interested to get it? And I thought about it for a long time, because it was again, it's an impractical work, to get. And where would I display it? Because I have an import duty waiver from the government of India for works that are for the museum. But again, there was no space in the museum for this work. So I said that the mall that's connected to the museum should be they should allow that, and they did. So we approached DLF and we asked them, could we install it? They said we have to strengthen the flooring. It's 26 tons of work. So they reinforced the flooring and we got the work installed. The team came from the UK and with our team, it's in sections. It's installed. It's 26 feet by 26 feet. It's a very, and that was bought specially with the idea when I build a standalone museum, this is going to be an important work in the museum.
So do you think that when you build, actually, you're in the process of now building your permanent space, early stages of that process, but do you think you'll actually be sort of, putting aside space for some of these really large works so that they don't have to sit in storage?
Yeah, I will. I have spoken to David and told him some works that will be part of the permanent collection in the museum. We have to find a space for them. So this is one work that I would like. Don't want it to be in incessant storage.
Yeah, exactly. And also the Battle Elephant, right, which is also a huge large sculpture, probably one of the most beautiful, early sculptures in this format.
Yeah, so Bharti sculpture, I think it's one of her best works. And again, this was bought at an auction. And I fell in love with it. I just thought it was so poignant. The expression on the elephant's face, it is so moving. And we showed it at the first show we had at Saket. And at that time, at the opening of the show, we had allowed people to bring alcohol into the museum without realizing that it was so dangerous. So there were people wandering around with their wine, and the wine was being dropped on the floor, and I had visions of the wine falling on the elephant and damaging it forever. So we stood in a circle around the elephant, not letting anybody come close to it, and then we asked people to please don't bring your alcohol in. So that was.
And this was also work that you said that you bought in auctions. So I think it's also, auctions have played an important role in your collection. You've been able to buy some really iconic works, and also you've been able to support the market in such a public forum, right? You've been definitely one of the key players in that world. And I think it's worked both ways of you also being able to get some really key works into your collection.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say that I'm a trophy hunter.
But why not?
Yeah, but I feel that the auctions do give you
access
to some of the best works that are there. And so if you have a chance, maybe you pay a little more, but because you're sometimes in a bidding war or something happens. But otherwise, I think it's a good way of acquisition.
And going back to installations, another really beautiful installation is by Ranjini Shettar. It's so fragile and ephemeral almost. When did you buy that work?
I bought that work in 2008 or 9, somewhere in that period, just before we started. No, maybe a little late, maybe 2010, because Noida was already started. And again, it was displayed in the first show, second show that we had in Saket on women artists. So, Ranjini is an artist who works single-handedly on all her work. She is not a studio person. She works and imagines and works on her imagination and where it takes her, and it's done very beautifully. I have actually got a huge collection of Ranjini's work. I have collected her in depth, but this was the first work that I bought, and it's beautiful. It's called Sing Along, and looking at the work, you feel there's like birds all around you, and it's a very very beautiful work.
Also now going back to some of the masters that you selected, I was looking at two, sort of portraits, if I can call them that you've selected in your list. One is by Ram Kumar and one is by Sita. And both artists, sort of look at human nature and suffering, but address those issues completely differently, right? So, I mean, let's talk about the Ram Kumar first, this very expressive portrait.
The Vagabond.
Vagabond, yes.
Yeah. So the Vagabond, I like a lot of Ram Kumar's abstract work, especially his Banaras series. I think they're really beautiful. But what he gets in his in the realism of his work, the way he's able to transpose the figures and the kind of life that he's able to give them is different from what most artists are able to do. This little man standing in the street comes to life. I mean, it, and all his realistic work has this innate quality, which is difficult to explain.
Yes, true. And completely dramatically different from that is the Susa, the butcher,
Yeah.
which is, which I think also, like as a gallerist, I find that a lot of collectors are so concerned about the subject matter and how dark the subject is. And if it's too morbid, I can't take it home, and how do you as a collector, I mean, apart from the institutional vision, how do you as a collector relate to these kind of works?
I don't differentiate so much. If a work is something that I'm drawn to, I think I'm going to be able to live with it. And The Butcher is a work that I saw in the catalog. I never saw the work before I bought it, but just the image in the catalog was so strong.
It's fantastic.
And I have other very important works of Sousa's, but this work is especially important because I think he's able to put his soul into the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And completely differently from Ram Kumar, who also, his work
absolutely.
But if you also knew the two artists, right? I mean, it kind of translates their personality into the works.
It does, absolutely.
And now I think the last two artists in your list are two abstract artists, beautiful works by Gaitonde and Raza. And, I was actually thinking about the museum and how you've, I don't know if it's intentional, but you've kind of been invested in this lineage of abstraction in India, whether it is Nasreen Mohammadi or Jairam Patel, even the current exhibition, which is absolutely spectacular, of abstract art, more contemporary. So there are these two works that you selected, again completely different, the Raza and Gaitonde.
So Saurashtra, when I acquired it, it's one of the few works I acquired when I was bidding in the room. I normally bid on the phone, but I was in London. In fact, I think you were sitting
next to you,
next to me when I bid on it. It was initially I wasn't. When Christy said, "Look at this work; it's very important. It's very good. It's very important." They tried to sell it to me. I said it's very expensive. I don't think I'm going to go for it. But then I remember Yamini took me around the gallery to show me the work, and it was much stronger in real when you really saw the work than in the image. And then I'm sort of quite a sucker for things, so I went for it. And I think at that time it became the most expensive Indian work. Of course, after that it's been overshadowed by many other works. But and since I was in the room, it was a different experience bidding in the room.
But it's also the most important period of Raza's sort of
yes,
and the colors and that scale. I mean, it's really hard to come by that kind of work.
Yeah, this is the two Raza works which are really important, like Later or Tapavan but I think Saurashtra has the most moving quality of all the works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And another artist in this abstract genre is Gaitonde. So we'll end with him. And this one, the one that you selected, is also red.
It's also red. Yeah, it's also red. It's a house. It's a work in my house.
Yeah.
It's another work that's in my house, and he's done many Devi series works, and he's done other red works also. But this, in size and scale, I think is better than them all.
And it's sublime.
Yeah, it's sublime. It's really sublime, and has a very important position in my home. And I have since then collected a lot of Gaitondes because I think he plays with abstraction beautifully. And there aren't that many abstract artists in India, and I think the ones we have should be nurtured.
Absolutely. So I think we'll end with this. Thank you, Roli, for inviting us, and thank you, Mr. Nadar, for everything that you do for Indian art. And I hope we'll get many more opportunities like this to talk.
Thank you, Roshini.